your bin from independent TV, giving you the lowdown on which TV shows are binge-worthy and which ones are bin-worthy. This week, we've both been watching Amazon Prime's The Rings of Power.
And we'll introduce you to our pick of hidden gems we think you should be watching.
Jacob?
Hi! Okay, I know I'm not Jacob Stolworthy. Don't be alarmed. I'm the producer, Eliza. I make this show, and poor Jacob is not feeling very well today, so I thought I would ably assist you and talk about a little bit of TV. So,
Yeah.
What have you been watching?
Well, I've been watching the very much talked about Lord of the Rings series, The Rings of Power. So The Rings of Power focuses on the major events of the Second Age of Middle-earth, which is kind of this very largely unexplored part of the history of Tolkien's world. Showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay, they actually pull from a variety of Tolkien's work. They pull from it, but they're really creating something new.
So what were some of your first impressions of the show so far? I know there's only been 2 episodes.
I like Lord of the Rings, but as far as my knowledge of Lord of the Rings goes, it stops with those movies. I don't have those expectations that Tolkien fans really have of this.
Do you think maybe that means you're coming at it, with a fresh pair of eyes? Can you maybe enjoy the show for its own merit without sort of, I guess, falling into that trap that a lot of us, maybe myself included, are going to fall into, of comparing it to, the films that we know and love?
Yeah, I think so. I think in some ways I'm the perfect audience for it because I don't have any of those expectations. But on the surface, I can enjoy the show at face value. You have Morfydd Clark as as Galadriel, who is the lead role. And yeah, I don't have a bad word to say about her performance actually so far. So whereas Cate Blanchett's Galadriel was kind of really ethereal and regal and composed, the younger version, she's angrier and she's got a little bit more bite to her. And yeah, I think with Morfydd Clark at the helm, the show's going in a good direction. She's a phenomenal actor and I kind of feel safe in her hands, that she'll kind of give me a character to really care about.
Why do you keep fighting?
There is a tempest in me.
It definitely feels very exposition heavy, but I think it does a really good job of just setting up that world and kind of doing the world building that is required with Tolkien. It's such a dense world that we need to be introduced to, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think there is a big task of exposition there, but they did it really swiftly. And it's hard not to get swept up in the cinema of it all. Even if you've just seen the first episode, you know how amazing it looks. It just looks so lavish. It makes sense because this is reportedly the most expensive TV series ever made. It was $465 million for 8 episodes, so it clocks in at $59 million per hour of TV.
Jeff Bezos wanted, I guess, the Game of Thrones of Prime TV. And in a way, he's definitely got it. It looks like a $1 billion show.
I'm watching it on my laptop. The cinematographers made it so it would be visually spectacular if you were watching it on your phone, if you were watching it on your laptop, on your TV, or on a massive IMAX. But yeah, I think it's really incredible how it translates even on a small screen. It feels like this cinematic event, which it is. It's a huge point in history for Tolkien fans. And
also just a word on the score. It's beautifully scored. So we've got Howard Shore, who obviously scored the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So he's composed the main theme. But the honor of scoring the main soundtrack this time has fallen to American composer Bear McCreary, who has scored Outlander, God of War, The Game, he's done The Walking Dead. The score of this, it really stands out to me. It feels very nostalgic, and I found it really transported me back to Middle-earth.
So yeah, I'm really surprised that they've gone with Bear McCreary to kind of soundtrack the rest of it, other than that main theme song. But from what I've heard, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, and I think he pays homage to Howard Shore really well, because a lot like that original soundtrack, you kind of find that every sort of location has its own distinct sound. So when we're with the elves, you get that very ethereal sort of choir singing. And then when we're with the dwarves, you have that kind of very deep male vocals. The big question, Annabel, is it a binge or is it a bin?
Yeah, I think it's a binge. Maybe I'm kind of with very fresh eyes. I don't go into it having like any expectations. I don't kind of have like a gospel that like I have a checklist of things that I'm making sure that they're faithful to. It's just really enjoyable TV, and I think kind of between Rings of Power and House of the Dragon, I'm definitely getting my like fantasy fix. Rings of Power, I think it's a binge. What about you?
I mean, again, coming at this from a complete novice, and I mean like a Tolkien novice and a binge or bin novice, I'm gonna say it's a binge. It's very pretty. I mean, obviously it looks gorgeous, it sounds gorgeous, but the jury's out, I think, if it has that substance to kind of back it up and I guess to justify its own existence. Do you want to talk about some hidden gems?
Yes, so I love this part of the show. The Hidden Gems is where we get to dig deep and share with you our favourite shows that maybe have been overlooked in the past. My hidden gem this week is Los Espookies, which is an HBO Spanish language series. It follows a group of friends who are these kind of horror enthusiasts, and they start a business to kind of conjure scares for a variety of clients. So like an example that comes early on is that they're hired by a priest to stage an exorcism so that he can get back in the good graces of his church. I feel like we see so many adaptations now, and all of these kind of Netflix shows follow the same formula, and it's mostly like a thriller or I don't know, like a YA romance, and it just feels like they're really lacking imagination, whereas Los Espookies is like nothing I've seen before.
A veces sí le salto.
There are these weird like kind of touches of magical realism. So the whole thing is kind of very realistic, or not realistic, but it's like set in the real world. But then there'll be kind of these moments where there is something else happening, but they kind of just take it as life, and the show kind of moves on very swiftly. But yeah, it's so funny and it's really strange. And I think if you watch the first episode, you're kind of like, oh, this is silly. But then once you're like watching the second, you're hooked. So it was co-created by Julio Torres, Ana Fabrega, and Fred Armisen, the latter of which international audiences will recognize from films like Eurotrip, Anchorman, Easy A. They all star in it, and there is not one weak link in the performances. They have such like distinct personalities, and it's just such a great ensemble. It is so surreal and wacky in the best way, and it comes out for a second season later this month. So it is the perfect time to start with season 1 so that you can just go on straight to season 2 without waiting for 3 years like me.
Me compré estas gafas y mi autoestima se fue a las nubes. He conocido a alguien nuevo, es un príncipe.
My hidden gem this week, and the only week that I will ever be doing this show, the not so hidden gem, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So the show was written, produced by Rob McElhenney, Glenn Howerton, Charlie Day, who all play the kind of main characters in the show. It follows a group of kind of toxically codependent, selfish, volatile friends who run a decrepit Irish bar in South Philadelphia that just kind of bears witness to all sorts of trickery and schemes and debauchery. It's kind of an anti-sitcom. If the premise of Friends was I'll be there for you, this is like we will not be there for each other.
Excuse me, sir. Have you...
Why did you do that? Well, she came at me and that was sort of my instinct.
That was amazing!
The show was actually renewed for its 16th season in 2021, making it the longest running live action sitcom of all time, considering that it kind of came from fairly humble beginnings. I think they shot the opening title sequence for, what was it, like $200 or something? They're literally driving through South Philadelphia with a sort of like shaky cam. I mean, it looks insanely low budget, and I'm really happy that they've kept that throughout the whole show. They haven't sort of tried to give it any sort of gleam or gloss. I think it's really stayed true to what the show is. I'm not a huge fan of some of the later seasons after season 12, when it kind of was rebooted a couple of years later. I think it kind of lost its way. There's a lot of references back to kind of like, hey, remember this gag that we did a couple of times already? If you've never seen it before, or if, like me, it's your sort of like 100th viewing and you can kind of quote it backwards, go and watch it now. All of the seasons are on Netflix, and you will thank me later.
Drink up, ladies. It helps your prostate.
Women don't have a prostate. God damn it.
Or is that what men want you to believe?
Thanks so much for filling in, Eliza. You have been Binge of Bin's hidden gem this week.
Oh, Annabel, I bet you say that to all the stand-in hosts. Thank you for having me. Thank you for bearing with me. And it's been an honor stepping out from my usual role as behind camera goblin. This has been a rare treat for me. So thank you, Annabel.
Thanks everyone for watching Binge or Bin. That's plenty of good stuff, in our opinion at least, for you to dig into until next time. Like and comment below and subscribe for more from Independent TV.